Hello, friends, and welcome to my channel. I'm Old Man Aben, and the purpose of my channel is to help young adults navigate their complicated world by giving them a different perspective to consider. Perspective that comes from looking back at the same choices that I made when I was your age and what I learned in the process of my success and my failures. Now, if we're going to go on this journey together and you're going to watch my videos, I think it's only fair that you should know something about me and you can decide whether my life experiences have given me any insight that can help you at whatever stage of life that you're at. So this video is the first of an 8-part series on my life story and how I got here today. My story starts in Boston, Massachusetts, with me, 5 years old, peeking out through the holes in the lattice underneath our front porch of our apartment building. It's my earliest memory. Even now, it's funny, I can still feel the cool, dusty dirt beneath my knees and the tires of my toy car as I played in the dirt underneath that porch. In the shade of my hiding spot, I felt safe. And from there, I could hide and I could watch the world go by. I could watch people come and go, and I didn't have to be seen or noticed by them. It was kind of like watching a movie about my life without actually participating in it, I guess. I lived in the upstairs apartment with my mom, but I really never saw my mom very often or interacted with her in any way. She was a creature of the night, and mom always slept way late into the day. I, on the other hand, was an explorer, and I would wake up at the first glimpse of sunlight in the morning and begin my daily adventures. I didn't have time for laying around, sleeping, and relaxing. No, the world was out there, and I had to go find my way. Life is a funny thing. Not funny like ha-ha funny, but weird, strange funny. In life, we all make choices. But quite often, especially when we're young, choices are made for us. And we don't have any choices. And the ripples of those choices move out into the universe and affect everything that we ever do and anything that we ever become. The circumstances we are in when we were young have huge effects on our future. And it shapes who we become later on in life. The lessons that we learn when we are 3 or 4 will often determine how we respond to our future encounters and relationships when we're adults. But of course, I didn't think about that at the time because kids don't think about such things. Kids give no thought about the future, only today, only what's going on right now. And the thing that mattered to me most was that I was hungry. I was always hungry. There was no food in the house. If I ever went and looked in the fridge, about the only thing that I would find would be some beer and maybe some cartons of leftover Chinese food. So my morning ritual usually started with waking up, getting dressed, heading out, and cutting through the empty lot behind our apartment building. And then I would go down the alley to our neighborhood bakery. Now, every morning, the bakery would toss out all of their leftover baked goods from the day before that didn't sell, and they would restock their shelves with all freshly baked stuff. So I found my breakfast in the dumpster of that bakery almost every day. I seldom ate anything for lunch, so I would eat stuff from the dumpster of the bakery until I was stuffed, and then I would go out and just have my daily adventure. And then usually around 7 o'clock, supper time would come. I didn't have a watch, of course, and didn't know what time it was. But when the afternoon light began to fade and the shadows got really long, I knew that the restaurants in our neighborhood were gearing up for dinner service, and it would be my best chance of finding food in their dumpsters. So I would go and see what I could find. I was hungry pretty much all the time. From sundown till bedtime was my time to forage, to go look for stuff to eat. And I didn't want to be late and miss out on all the good stuff. So as soon as it started to get dark, that's what I was doing. That was my job. Some days I hit the jackpot, and some days I struck out. But I guess life is like that no matter how old you are. Most days would be the same. They would start out the same. I would wake up in the bathtub, which is where I usually slept. Now, the reason, you may ask, why are you sleeping in a bathtub? The reason is because the apartment that Mom and I lived in was a tiny single room efficiency apartment, which meant that it had the living room on one side and the kitchen on the other. And the only room in that apartment other than the main room was the bathroom, which was built out in the corner, kind of like a closet off on the side next to the kitchen. So the pull-out couch in the living room was the only bed in the apartment. Now, some nights I got to share the couch bed with Mom, but the reason that I usually slept in the bathroom tub was because Mom would bring men home with her pretty much every night. A different man every night. And when that happened, which was most nights, it was understood that I would have to sleep in the tub so they could have some privacy. I got used to it. It became normal, except for when the strange guys would come into the bathroom in the middle of the night to use the toilet. That never got normal. With me sleeping right next to the toilet in the tub with my blanket and pillow. So I learned that the best way to handle that situation was just to pretend I was asleep, pull the blanket over my head, and I got used to it. It wasn't so bad. In some ways, it was good when Mom brought guys home because they would usually give me some money and tell me to go get some candy. I knew what it really was for. It was to get me out of the apartment so they could get down to business without a little kid in the room. So I would take the money that these guys would give me and I would go down to the Quick Pantry gas station and I would get my favorite supper of all, which was a bag of Funyuns, a cherry pie, and an orange soda. And then I would take my gourmet meal down to the little rundown park down the street from our apartment building. And I would sit at the picnic table next to the squeaky merry-go-round and I would eat my dinner. And when it was done, I would lie on my back on top of the table and I'd look up at the stars, the night sky. And I remember, even as a little kid, I remember thinking how small that it made me feel. When I thought it was safe and enough time had passed, I would eventually go home. I had learned early on that waking or disturbing my mom's male visitors was not a good thing. So I would carefully put my ear to the door and listen and crack open the door and kind of peek in and make sure the coast was clear. And if the room was dark and quiet, I'd tiptoe in and I'd slip past them and I'd go to the bathroom and get ready for bed. I do remember one morning, I remember the sun woke me up coming through the window in the bathroom, and I got dressed, went outside, and I saw that it had poured rain the night before, and that meant it was a swim day because the neighborhood pool was going to be open. In actuality, we didn't have a neighborhood pool. But what we did have was an intersection, a couple blocks down from my house. And when it would rain really hard, this intersection would flood with 2 or 3 feet of water. And all the neighborhood kids would come out and they would ride their bikes through it and they would run out into it and splash and play, and it was a blast. And we would all meet at the intersection on rainy days like that and swim in the neighborhood pool. The good news was that the water was too deep for cars to drive through, so they wouldn't come through and bother us until the water would go down far enough that the cars would get through it. It was all ours. Those days, they kind of blend together now. And I do remember individual stories that, don't seem to have much in common, except, of course, that they all happened to me. But I do remember one story that started with a beautiful day and a bath towel. Now, I have to give a disclaimer here. When we're kids, we do dumb things for unknown reasons. And this was definitely one of those times. Kids see the world through inexperienced eyes. And they haven't fallen down a lot yet, and they haven't gotten hurt enough times to know that they need to be careful. So take it from a guy who has fallen down lots of times. Don't try some of the stuff that you're going to hear me talk about. I loved Superman, and I would take a towel and I would tie it around my neck like a cape, and I would pretend to be the Man of Steel. That was my jam. So one day, with my cape tied firmly in place, I climbed to the top of the porch railing on our building. Now, when you consider the porch itself in front of our building was several feet off the ground because I would play underneath it, and then the top of the railing that was above the porch was a few feet even higher than that, it was probably 10 feet from the top of the railing where I was standing to the ground. Now, fastened onto the side of the apartment building, right there on the porch, was about an 8-foot piece of rope that had once been used as a clothesline. And I don't really know why. It's hard to explain why kids do the things they do. But for some reason, I thought it would be a good idea for me to take the rope and tie it around my ankle and jump. Somehow that was going to simulate flight, which of course turned out to be a really bad idea. So I tied the rope to my ankle and I jumped head first, just like Superman, with my arms straight out in front of me. And as I soared out into space, gravity took over, as you would expect, and I began to fall. About halfway to the ground, the rope reached its end and yanked my ankle straight up as the rest of my body continued to fall. So with my legs in the air, my face hit the ground so hard, it knocked the wind completely out of me. So I'm hanging upside down by one ankle and I can't breathe. I'm just hanging there dangling. Fortunately, my knot tying skills were not good, and the rope that I tied to my ankle came undone. And after swinging upside down for a few seconds, when the rope came loose, I just kind of crumpled to the ground with a thud and lay there gasping for breath. After laying there for a while, I eventually sat up and continued on my way, a smarter, wiser person. People have asked me, in my later years, of course, how I became so wise, and I tell them that I only seem wise because I've fallen on my face so many times that I'm able to see the flaws in my plan before it actually happens. And yes, that was one of those times. Well, that's it for today. Hit the like button if this video was helpful. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me in the future. And leave a comment. I would love to hear from you, or maybe you have a question that I could help you with. Have a great day, my friends, and we'll see you on the next one.